What's up, everybody? Can y'all see me? It's looking kind of fuzzy. Let me see if I can connect on here. Hold on, y'all. Let's see. Let's see. Hey, I know I am late, y'all. Life, life be lifing. Life be lifing, y'all. So listen. Okay, let me just get to it. So since 2023, so much has happened. I know everybody when they want to vlog their life, the first thing, especially if you're into YouTube, the first thing people want to do is grab a camera. Grab a camera. Sometimes when you're going through things in life, grab a camera's not the first thing you think about. So before I get into sharing part one of my story, and this is after a long Saturday, y'all. This is what is left of me after a long Saturday. Hey, Mama T, I knew you was gonna show up for me. Whew. So let me go ahead and say a prayer so I can, um, I guess, just empty myself and just, free myself and just let some things out. Okay, if you will, bow your head with me. Lord, I thank you for this opportunity to share my life story, my life's true story with whomever needs to hear it. I know I may not be for everybody, but for those who need to hear my story and who can relate and learn some things from it and let it be helpful to them. Let them get from my story what I didn't have, the resources that I didn't have when I was going through my life, my journeys. Lord, uh, I thank you for all that I have been through. I thank you for teaching me along the way. Lord, I just want to be more like you and less like me. Lord, I thank you for everything that you've given me, all just for the gift of life. Lord, I thank you in your son Jesus' name. Amen. 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 Okay, so let me start from 2023. And like I said, this is going to be my life journey part one, two, and three. And part two is going to be how we lost a son to gun violence in 2024. 2005, which is this year, May 21st, actually, I had a heart attack. I had a heart attack a couple of weeks ago. And as I sat back to reminisce, the last few years, I mean, I have really been going through some serious life occurrences for the last 3 years. Okay, so I'm gonna try to make it through. I said I wasn't gonna cry, and I'm trying not to. I'm here at Tables Event Center. Just I'm here a lot when my son is in the parking lot, but I'm just here trying to make sure my thoughts are clear. I have not written anything down, but I'm just trying to make sure my thoughts are clear and I can focus on what I need to say. Okay. So back in 2023, and y'all know I had Jamie Lynn in 2020, and I don't want to say she's a surprise baby, but we were not expected to have a child that late in our life because Brandon was getting ready to graduate from school, high school, and we thought we were getting ready to do some traveling and be empty nesters or whatever. But God gave us Jamie Lynn, and y'all know she was born like 8 or 9 weeks early due to my hypertension. Okay, so we were blessed that we had a healthy baby. And it was right during the height of COVID. So we were blessed that we had a healthy baby. I had to stay in the hospital a little bit longer because my temperature kept rising, but we were able to make it through. So I would say that was a dramatic experience having Jamie Lynn. Fast forward to 2023, Um, I have cramps all the time in my legs, y'all. And this particular cramp or muscle soreness of muscle that I was having in my right leg, I was telling Alexis about it, my sister. She said, that sounds just like a blood clot. And I was like, you think it's a blood clot? She said, it sounds like a blood clot. So I said, let me go to the doctor and get it checked out. And I went to the doctor, and it's important that you get a provider that cares about you and who listens to you personally and not generalize or put you, to where he's generalizing, well, this happened to another patient or a case study or whatever. He personalizes your care, right? So the provider that I had at the time, he said, well, maybe it's just soreness of muscle. Um, from you having your cramps and stuff. And I said, well, just to be on the safe side, let me go ahead and get it checked out. So he sent me to the hospital. We got it checked out, and it was a blood clot. And so I was in the hospital. And y'all have to excuse me. This is just me. I'm not glammed up or nothing, y'all. When I tell y'all what I've been through today, it's a blessing that I even made it to this screen, and I had to fight to get to this screen tonight, y'all. But he put me in a hospital for about, over the weekend or whatever, to monitor the blood clot and gave me blood, put me on blood thinners and stuff like that. So I have been on blood thinners for a while, and a few months later, I would say this would be like in maybe February or March of 2024, no, 2023. And so we got a surprise. Okay. I found out right after the blood clot, maybe a couple of months later in June, actually, that we were going to have a baby for Christmas. And I kind of suspected it. We weren't trying to, hey, House of X, hey, Mama, tell I'm sorry for y'all that, I'm just trying to make sure I don't forget any details or anything like that. But hey, I'm so glad y'all joined. Thank y'all so much for being here. Um, so we got a surprise. We were scheduled to have a baby in for Christmas for 2023. So me and my husband, like, we just want a healthy baby. And some of my coworkers were like, "Do you really want to have a baby at this age? Do you really want to have a baby?" Keep in mind, we already had Jamie Lynn, and I had been on medication. Y'all know I had been taking those blood thinners for that blood clot a few months prior to me finding out that we're gonna have a baby. So all types of things went through my mind, and I was like, Lord, is it gonna be a healthy baby? Is it? All types of things just went through my mind. The devil tried to play tricks on you. He was, give me all you gonna, have the baby gonna be like this or the baby. I'm like, Lord, I'm just depending on you. You know what I'm capable of doing. You know my heart. I'm trusting you. So I'm already in my second trimester when we found out we were having Trinity. Okay. So we decided to keep her, and like my husband, they want to do all this genetic testing and stuff like that. So we did. We let them test her, and she tested positive for Down syndrome, and we had some more tests scheduled or whatever. And so my husband said, don't keep going back and forth to the doctor doing all this testing. My husband said, whatever it is, whatever is wrong with the baby, she's it's still like this time we didn't know the gender. It's still our child. We still have to bring the baby home. It's no cure for nothing they testing them for. So why keep going through all of this testing? Just stop. Just stop testing. Just stop. Whatever the baby is, keep your normal appointments. Whatever the baby is, we're gonna bring the baby home and raise the baby. So I was glad that he supported me on that note. Okay, so keep in mind I had hypertension, right? So I was a high risk pregnancy, and going back, I had two doctors that I was going to, my specialist and I was going to my regular OBGYN. So I was going to appointments and things like that. Blood pressure was constantly through the roof. We tried several medications to keep my blood pressure under control, but nothing seemed to work. Nothing seemed to work. So She was scheduled for to be a Christmas baby. So my son was off in school and they were getting ready to come home. Halloween was coming up. It was in October. So he had been saying that on campus, and he's in the band. He had been saying on campus that strep throat had been going around. I said, well, "You stay on campus." I said, I really can't take any medication. I said, "Stay on campus." I say, "Nothing going on this weekend. You stay on campus. Do not bring that stuff to this house." Because he was saying his throat was sore. I said, "Don't come home. Do not come home." He said, "Mom, I'm fine." I said, "Brandon, don't come home." Okay, Brandon came home anyway, and my throat was feeling itchy anyway. But it seemed like when he came home, that made it worse. And then I was congested really, really bad, and my blood pressure had elevated, and I was just laying around in the bed. I said, "I'm sick. I'm really sick." And I told my husband, I said, "Come and take me to the ER." He said, "Okay." And y'all, I had on a house dress, some leggings, and I just stuck my feet in some house shoes. And we get to the ER, and my blood pressure was through the roof. And you really, by me being, I guess, kind of heavy, whatever, you really couldn't tell that I was carrying a baby. And my doctor wasn't here in my town. My doctor's like 45 minutes away, so they didn't have any records or anything on me here. So when they checked my blood pressure, they were like, "Who is your regular provider?" And I was telling them who my provider was, and my husband said, "Well, she's expecting." And they said, "We got to call your doctor." So I gave them the information to call my doctor. Once they got my doctor on the phone, she told them to send me to them immediately. I was at risk for stroke because my blood pressure had elevated so high. So I couldn't, they wouldn't allow my husband to drive me to the hospital. I had to go by ambulance. So they gave me some meds and stuff to take to keep from having a stroke. And y'all, I can't tell y'all, I was just like, oh, everything was happening so fast. So they allowed my husband to ride in the ambulance with us to my doctor. Once I got to my doctor, I was upset. I was like, Liz, I was uncomfortable, and I kept saying, I gotta use the bathroom. I'm just being real with y'all. I'm being real. I'm being real with y'all. I'm just me today, okay? And the nurse came in. She said, "Miss Tabor, I don't know if you realize it or not, but hey, Jamie, you are having a medical emergency." She said, "Your blood pressure is elevated. You are at risk level of having a stroke." And she said, "Your baby is at risk for being stillborn. Your life is at risk." And because she wanted to do a catheter, and I said, "I know my rights. I don't want a catheter. You can't give me a catheter if I don't want one." She said, "Well, you can't get up and walk. The medicine they gave you relaxes your muscles. You could fall." And after she told me I was having a medical emergency, and all, which I knew the risk, but just hearing it and knowing it's in real time and it's really what's going on with me now, I humbled myself so fast. I humble myself all the way down to just whatever y'all want to do, just do it. Whatever. They came in. I had the IV from the hospital, from my hometown hospital, but they was trying to draw blood and everything, and I was just like, whatever y'all need to do, go ahead and do it. And so my doctor said, she said, "I can't treat you here." She said, "The specialist that you've been going to in Memphis, trying to get in touch with him to see if he has a bed for you there. If not, we're going to have to send you to Jackson." And at this point, I just want to live. I'm thinking about my kids, my family. I'm like, whatever you think is best. I didn't have any more fight in me. I didn't. I was just, I didn't have any more fight in me. And so she ended up, a doctor in Memphis didn't have any beds left, and they said we couldn't risk holding you here until a bed becomes available. We have to send you to the next place. So they ended up sending me to Jackson, Mississippi, to UMMC. So they wouldn't let my husband ride in the ambulance. So my husband and my son ended up trailing us. So I asked them, I said, "Can y'all give me something to help me relax? Because it's almost a 2 hour drive." I said, "Can y'all give me something to help me relax on this trip. Because keep in mind, I was already sick, and they weren't even concerned about the issue I came in, which was a sore throat and congestion. They Nobody said nothing else about that. They were concerned about the baby and my life because my hypertension, right? So we get to the hospital, and I vaguely remember it's just bits and pieces because I was kind of sedated of us making it there. But I do remember looking up, and I looked. My husband and son was standing right there. So we get in, and they hooked me up, and all the blood work and all of that I had done with my doctor, I had to do all of that over again. And so a doctor and nurses came in and was like, and this is Halloween weekend. They said, well, we have a couple of choices. They said we can go ahead and deliver the baby now. And it's supposed to be a Christmas baby, and it's Halloween weekend. And or we can give you some medication to help you hold the baby for as long as we can until your due date. I said to December. She said, yeah, we have a couple that's been here for 2 months. I said, I can't stay here 2 months. I said, I cannot stay here 2 months. I said, I have another a child at home. I cannot be away from my child that long. And I said, y'all won't let her come up here because they don't allow children unless they're patient to come. I said, there's no way I can be here that long. She said, well, calm down. We're just going to take it day by day. So they gave me some medication to, keep me from going into labor or whatever. I was there a couple of days, and they kind of tricked me because the nurse came back and said, we're going to go ahead and prep. It was like that the day before, October 30th. She said, we're going to prep you to have a C-section because all the medication that we've tried, your blood pressure is not, it's, won't go down. And she said, we're at a point now, you can lose your life or you can lose the baby. And she said, we're going to try and keep both of them. And y'all, later on, I found out some stuff, but I'm going to tell you about that later. So I told my husband, I said, call my mom, get my mom on the phone because my mama would pray you through anything. And when she prayed, it's like the floodgates of heaven were open. I said, get my mama on every step of the way. I was telling my husband, call my mama so she can call the church to, pray. And every step of the way, I didn't want to leave my mama out the loop. I told her, call her, so she know what's going on. So later on, they came and got me. And y'all, I didn't know when I was laying, it's like I couldn't even pray for myself. Me and my that picture I put on there, me and my husband holding hands, he prayed for me because I couldn't pray. I've been in church my whole life, and I'm like, why I can't get no prayers? I can't. My mind was just totally blank. So my husband was praying for me, and he had given the phone to the nurse, and the nurse is the one that got the picture or whatever. Cause they had told my son he couldn't stay. He was in there a little while, and they told him to leave. Um, y'all, only thing I can do is just rely on what I knew growing up. Is just trust in God, put my faith in God, and trust that everything will be all right. Now later on, I found out that the doctors had talked to my husband and asked him if it came down to it, who should they save, me or the baby. My husband said, "You're gonna save both of them," and I didn't know none of this was going on. I didn't know none of this was going on till after the fact, and they worked on me for a while. I had a cesarean or whatever. And so when they got the baby out, the baby wasn't even crying. And I kept saying, what's wrong? She's not crying. And it took us forever to find out the sex of the baby. I said, the baby's not crying. They said, give us a minute. I kept asking. They took the baby out the room. And she wasn't even crying. So my husband got up. I said, go see what's going on. He got up and went in there. And I don't know how long time had left, but I finally heard her cry. So I'm like, Lord Jesus. So if the baby don't cry, that's and you losing time to get oxygen to the brain, it's gonna be some effects and stuff, right? She weighed 4 pounds. They took her to the NICU, and they had on feeding tubes, oxygen. They had and I have so many pictures, y'all, and I didn't even think to upload them to show y'all, but She was so little, and she had it was baby smaller than my baby in the NICU, but they had her hooked up to everything they could have her hooked up to, and they had me on so much medication, and it was just like everything happened so fast. Everything was going on so fast. And I called my mom. I said, we're, okay, the baby was 4 pounds. She said, that's okay because some babies weigh 2 pounds. And a lot of people was like, that's good for 4 pounds because she can pull through better than a 2 pound baby, whatever. Even though she was a few months early. And so they allowed me to go and see the baby. I would go see the baby every single day. Every time I got a chance to, I would go see the baby. And I told them, I said, I want to breastfeed because that's my thing. I want to make sure I breastfeed all my kids. Ever since a girl growing up, that was what I was going to do. And so by me being on so much medication and stuff, and they end up giving her some of the donor's milk, and I went off because I'm like, y'all took that from me because I wanted to breastfeed my own child. So I ended up staying in the hospital. Maybe it was like 8 days, 8 days or so. And they let me go home. Y'all, before you go home, they tell you have to have a bowel, a BM. Your bowels have to move, right? Mine didn't. Mine didn't. I went home and I was doing fine. I was recovering fine. And so we would go see the baby every day. And so I hadn't had a bowel movement. And so me being all smart like I am, I gave myself an enema. Do you hear me? Y'all, when I gave myself an enema, I did use the bathroom, but I shouldn't have done that, okay? I should not have done that. A few, maybe 2 days later, I started noticing my cesarean section, the the line, it was leaking. You know, it was leaking and it was smelling horrible. And I'm being real with y'all. I'm being so real with y'all. I'm sharing my private moments with y'all, and that's why it took me so long to. I've been saying I was gonna share. It took me so long to share because I just don't. Some things I don't think is meant for YouTube. But a lot of information that I found out, I got from mothers on YouTube. So some of their things helped me, and so maybe my ordeal can help help somebody too. So it was smelling so bad, y'all. I went to my doctor, and she said, "Oh, I gotta put you back in the hospital." I said, "Listen." And then, yeah, I can. If I came in the room, you could smell it in the room. I was so embarrassed, y'all. You could actually smell like a bowel move. Y'all know how bowel movers smell, right? And so I told my doctor, I said, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I said, "I gave myself an enema," and I said, "That's probably what happened." And she said, "I gotta put you back in the hospital." I said, "Please don't." I said, "I'll come see you every single day." I said, I'll take whatever you want me to take, but please don't put me back in the hospital. I said, my baby, I had already been away from her so long. And I said, I'll come and see you. She said, you'll come every day. She gave me some medication. She changed my wound, and I went home. I went home maybe a day, and I said, no. My mom said, go back to the hospital that you had the baby. Go back up there. She said, go back there. That was on a Wednesday. Brandon took me. I told my husband, I can't wait. I said, just meet us. And it's like almost 2 hours away. So I packed my bag because I already knew they were going to keep me. I was prepared this time. I packed me a bag. I told Brandon, I said, pack you a bag. So Brandon was in school now. Keep in mind, Brandon was in school. And um, but he didn't want to leave my side. And my son really grew up doing it. He really showed me that I raised him right because he never left my side throughout this whole ordeal. So he packed him a bag and went back to Jackson, went to the ER. And when they got to me, checked me in, the doctor came in. I'm thinking they're going to patch me up and send me back home. But I just kept, am I going to be able to go back home? So this nurse came, well, doctor came in. The nurse came in first. She assessed it. She left out. And the doctor came in, black girl. Black girl magic, black girl power. She came in. She said, "You ain't going home." She said, "You finna go to surgery." I said, "Surgery?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "I smelled this wound when I walked in." She said, I think your womb is full of BM." I said, "I did it. I did it to myself. I gave myself a M." I said, "I did it." She said, "Sometimes it's common." She said, "Don't worry about it." I said, "No, I did. I was doing fine. I did this to myself." She said, "Come now, we're going to take care of you." So I told Brandon, I said, "Call everybody, call." Because my husband wasn't there at the time. It was happening so fast, y'all. So they said, "We got to take you into surgery." Now, I had just got home from having the baby. The baby was still in the NICU, right? And the baby was still there. Hadn't came home yet. So I went in when they prepped me for surgery. So while we were waiting to go in, Brandon, he grabbed my hand. He said, "Mama," he said, "I don't know what I'd do without you." He said, "You got to come through." I said, "Boy, I ain't going nowhere but to serve. I'm coming out." And they had already talked to him about how serious it was. They had gone the same wound that they had the cesarean wound, the same. They cut the same wound back open again. This just a few days later from me having the baby. So I'm like, "Lord, what did I do? Why am I going through this?" I prayed, I prayed and prayed, and I said, "Lord," I said, "I give my life back to you totally." I said, "I know, I just played my case to God. I knew I had been raised in church, and I knew I had strayed away, not turned my back on God, but I wasn't as faithful to God anymore like I had been in the past." So, uh, I played my case to God. I was at peace with it. Went on in surgery. They knocked me completely out. I was out. So when I came to in recovery, the nurse, I don't know if it was a nurse or a tech. I was so out of. She was messing with my toes. She said, "Wiggle your toes, wiggle your toes." And I guess I wasn't doing. She said, "Wiggle your toes." And I'm saying to myself, "I am wiggling my toes." She said, "Wiggle your toes." And so I started wiggling them. And they said, "She okay?" So they took me back to the room. I was still out of it. I was still out of it. And when they pushed me back to the room, Brandon was in there. He said, "Mama, you all right?" I was talking so crazy, y'all. And I remember saying, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm okay." And I was so sore, y'all. And that same spot, that same wound that I had, they had reopened and stitched it back up. I was in, oh, I had never, it didn't, I can't even describe the pain I was in. And so I told them, "I still want to breastfeed." They said, "Well, we don't know how this going to work because the medication that you're on is not going to allow you to breastfeed." And I'm like, "Man." So they was trying to find some medicine that I could take to allow me to pump the milk. So going through all of that, I said, "You know what?" I said, "Right now, the most important thing is for me to live." I said, "So whatever medication I need, just give it to me. Just give it to me. Whatever it is, don't try to give me a knockout version or something." I said, "Just give me the medicine that I need to live to help heal this wound up." So I stayed in the hospital. Oh, they couldn't. In my vein, my ports where they was getting the IVs kept popping. I was a hard stick. It kept coming out. My veins kept blowing. So they had to do a deep vein IV, and that's where they put the machine to see where your deep vein is, and like in between, just deep. So I had to do that. It was better. It was better because then I know it wasn't gonna come out because they kept drawing blood, kept giving me stuff or whatever. So the kicker is, y'all, I got ready to go. The baby still was in NICU. And I still could go see the baby back and forth. And I did. Brandon would wheel me down in the wheelchair. I'll go see the baby. It'd be 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock. And I will hold her in my arms. And keep in mind, when the baby is born, that skin to skin matters, y'all. It matters. People don't think it matters, but it matters because once we got Trinity home, she didn't have that skin to skin. And we had to, it was a process. Okay. Let me go back. Got ready to be discharged. Y'all, I had to have home help come visit me 3 times a week to change my dressing on my stomach. Do y'all hear me? Home help 3 times a week. Me. I'm so proud, y'all, and I work in healthcare. And I'm like, I'm the patient. I gotta get home help. Nurses got to come and see me change my wound, change my dressing 3 times a week. And I'm like, you never know what you go through. You up today and down tomorrow. You just never know. You never know what a person's story is. You see a person, you see people miss. You don't know what people are going through. And I had to fix my mind to, okay, this is my way of life for now. And by me having home help come to my house to change my dressing, my wound, do wound care on me, that meant I couldn't go and see my baby in NICU every day because I had to get home help 3 times a week. So the in between days, I would go and see her, and um my baby finally got so she could eat on her own. She can use a bottle instead of G2. She can use a bottle. And they took out the oxygen to see could she breathe on her own, but they ended up having to put her back on oxygen. So after a few days, they tried it again, and she was breathing on her own. So they moved her to Sanders' house. It's where they move babies to where the family could stay overnight with the baby. But y'all, when I tell you this was a trying time because we had nobody that could stay with my baby. My mom had to keep Jamie Lynn because I wasn't in no condition to do nothing. She had to help me and Jamie Lynn because having home help, I had this box on my, oh my God, I forgot the name of that box. I had it's a box where it drains your wound care box. It drains the fluid out of your wound into into this little box, and the box has to be um charged up like a charger. So y'all, with me being on the go and my battery run low, I had to sit there and plug up to a wall. Y'all know how I was depressed. I was staying with my mom and dad during that time because I couldn't go home. And I want, at home I would have been trying to still do everything. My husband would get off work and come sit with me and stay there with us and stuff. He said, "When you coming home?" I said, "Now, right now, I'm just trying to get well." My husband, he was being as supportive as he could. Somebody had to pay the bills. Everybody couldn't be off work, right? So I told him, "No, you go on, go," because he was trying to take a leave. I said, "No, my mama here, my daddy here." I said, "You need to go to work." I said, "Go to work and just come home. I'll be here." So I had to plug up to this charger and let the box charge up. And I got so depressed one night at my parents' house. It was like maybe 12:30, 1 o'clock. And I got up to go to the bathroom, and I forgot I had that little purse, and it pulled. And when you pull and it's not flowing right, it'll make a sound. I just started boohooing and crying. I was like, "Lord, this ain't my life. This, what did I do?" I used the bathroom and I went to the den so they couldn't hear me cry at the front of the house. My dad got up. He said, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah, Dad, I'm fine." He said, "Anything I can do for you?" I said, "No." I said, "I'm okay." I said, I'll be okay. I'll be okay." He said, "You sure?" I said, "Yeah, Dad, just gone back to bed. I'm okay." And I just cried because I felt like I was helpless and hopeless. And I couldn't get to see my baby like I wanted to because I was a patient myself. My baby was down there, and they had the babies hooked up to monitors where they could see what the babies were doing and stuff. So they called me one morning from the hospital, and they said your baby temp dropped during the night. And I'm like, "Why you think her temp dropped?" He said it was cold outside. Okay, you was supposed to be checking on my baby. I went down there the next day. I went down there, and the little hat they had on her head was over her face. I said, "When y'all gonna release?" I said, "Release my baby." I said, "Because this hat over her face, I thought y'all would monitor her. And the reason her temp dropped, y'all ain't checking on it. It's just a matter of somebody putting a blanket on her. Y'all didn't couldn't have been checking." So she stayed there a little while long, and we were able to bring her home. She didn't make it home for Thanksgiving, but it was right after Thanksgiving that we were able to bring her home. I was still on home help, and we stayed with my parents for a little while. And so my husband came. He said, "I'm taking y'all home today now." I said, "No, I ain't going home." I said, "I'm not going home. I'm gonna stay here." He said, "No, you my wife. You got to come on home. I'm gonna take care of you. You know I'm gonna take care of you." But men take. I mean, he could do his best because when I was in the hospital, I couldn't even clean myself. He was so, he had to clean me and everything because I didn't want the nurses to do it. But I just wanted my mama. As old as I am, I just wanted my mama. I just wanted my mama. That's all. I just wanted my mama. So mama said, "Well, go home. I'm gonna come over there because she lived like 3 or 4 minutes away." She said, "I'll come over there." So I went home and my husband waited on me hand and foot. I'm like, "I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay." And so the baby, she was so little and she would stop breathing and turn blue in the face. I had to like tap her, wake her up, and I was telling the doctor, and he said that was coming. I'm like, it ain't coming for me, it's not coming for me. But I looked it up, and it was coming for preemies, baby, underway babies. So I had to just learn that this just our way of life for now, you know. And so I ended up being out of work longer than expected, and we did so much praying, and the home health nurses. I said, "Take a picture. I want to see this wound." She said, "You sure?" It was deep. She showed it to me. I was like, "Oh my God!" And they had to strip the gall out and put more in. When they pull the gall, the gall stick to your inside skin, but they want to heal from the inside out. I'm like, "Oh my God, that hurts so bad. It hurts so bad." But I end up getting off home help, and they said, "We just can't believe how fast this won't heal." I said, "Because I got people praying for me, people that ain't playing with God, people that know how to get a prayer through praying for me. That's why I heal, so quickly, because I got true prayer warriors." And, sometimes people say, "I pray for you," and they really don't pray. Hey, Coco. They'll say, "I'm praying for you," and they really don't pray. Or people don't know really how to pray and get a sincere prayer through to God. I mean, a serious prayer through. And I just thank God for my mama, my church family. Everybody was calling, checking on me, and I was still depressed. I was I was depressed, and I had to learn to just take one day at a time. Even though my family tried to make me comfortable, they helped me with the baby. My work family, they gave us so much stuff. And hey, Miss Book, gave us so much stuff and checked on us all the time. And I said they do care, you know. So the baby ended up. She was start once we got home. She started gaining weight, and um our way of life starting to get back to some type of normalcy. We had to adjust to certain things, but we did. Um, and the baby's name, I'll tell you how the baby's name came to be. We at the time we had two children. Brandon uh, was 17. Jamie Lynn was 2.5, and now we got this new baby. So I didn't have any thoughts or anything about what to name the baby. I was asking people at work trying to give me names, and uh, I had two people to give me the name Trinity, the social worker at work, and Coco. And that's what triggered my memory. Coco came in. Two people gave me that name Trinity. These two people don't know each other. Okay. So this movie, Equalizer, if y'all watch the movie Denzel Equalizer 2, one of those moving companies, go back and watch. It had Trinity's moving service or Trinity something. But when I saw the word Trinity, that was the third time I had seen Trinity. I said, "This baby named Trinity. That's her name, Trinity." And it made sense. That was the third time I had seen the name Trinity. Two people, didn't know each other, gave me that name, and it's our third and last child. And y'all, my husband's so funny. He said, "We're gonna get your tubes tied." I said, "Why don't you get a vasectomy?" you trying to get me fixed. Why don't you get you a vasectomy? He said, no. And he made sure that they tied my tubes, y'all. Ain't that something? It's something, ain't it? But it was for the best. It was because I would have ended up having another baby. My husband said a few weeks ago, if your tube one time, you'll be pregnant again. Y'all had to throw that little joke in because I was starting to cry a little bit. But God had seen me through that ordeal, and it was. I hope I didn't leave anything out. I hope I didn't leave anything out. But that's my story, and it took me so long. And she was born in 2023, and it took me all this time to share that experience with you all because, I always tell my friends, everything ain't for YouTube, and I just don't like sharing my personal life like that. But y'all had a long day, and my brother called us that he's actually in the hospital. When I went to the hospital a couple of weeks ago, he was in the hospital too. God is really working on his family, y'all. We got, we were saying we got to really do some fasting and praying because the devil. My mama even said the devil trying to have a funeral in his family or something. I said, well, it won't be me because I'm getting myself together. I'm getting back closer to God like I used to be. I'm getting myself together, building my relationship back with God. And so today I was scheduled to come on at 5. But during that time, my mom was calling because she went to see him today. She said he called, the doctor gave him, she called the name of the medicine. I'm not going to call, y'all know they don't like you to call medicine name on here. But they gave him some medicine and he coded. And so they were able to bring him back, but for a while, he had coded. So I couldn't come on live knowing, that we had a family emergency. So he's still in the hospital, hooked up to everything. So y'all keep him in y'all prayer. He had a stroke, a massive stroke. So y'all keep him in y'all prayers. And like I said, this is part one. This was my 2023 experience with my emergency cesarean section. And like I said, part two is going to be when our son was killed in gun violence, and they still don't know who did it, and the effect it had on my family. I mean, it was bad, and it is bad. That's 2024. And like I mentioned to y'all, May 25th of this year, I had a heart attack a couple of weeks ago. At Jamie Lynn's graduation dinner, I had a heart attack. And so I'm at home off work recovering. Like my husband, I said, I don't even think, y'all know I've been telling you I've been wanting to quit that job anyway. And it's just been a lot of stress on me trying to run the business. I'm here at the center now trying to run this business. And we got so many businesses. I'm trying to run all of those businesses, plus work a full-time job. Plus we have two small children. Do y'all hear me? That's a lot. Stress. I was in stress overload. Stress overload, y'all. And I have to find my balance. I have to let some things go. I'm on leave for work now, but it's in the air if I'm going back. But my job is secure right now because I am on leave. But it's just I got to give some things up in order for me to live. God bless me, so I'm gonna make that part. I'm gonna get into too much into it, but I'm home recovering from a heart attack, May 21st. Since I've been home, I've been, having to remind myself, sit down, sit down, sit down. You can't do what you used to do. And I have noticed that and I still do some rehabbing. I may not look like it, y'all, but God has been so good. I've been, like I said, this is what is left of me after today. T-shirt and a cap, y'all. This is my real self today. Okay. Um, I got to learn to sit down. I got to learn to take care of me because when I was in the hospital, they was hooking me up. I was thinking about my little girls. I'm like, oh my God. And I argued with them. I said, I'm not having a heart attack. He said, you having a heart attack. My blood pressure was 241 over 117. I felt at the dinner, I had been sick the last few days, and when they say heart attack and stroke are silent killers, they are not. They are not, y'all. Your body will tell you. Your body will tell you. You have to listen. I made excuses for those signs and symptoms. I made excuses for each one of them. I did. My husband kept telling me, go to the doctor. My mom, go to the doctor. I was having shortness of breath all the time. I'm going, I'm going. Never made time for myself to go. Never made time. And the effect of my body gave out on me. It gave out on me. So now I can feel the effects. I'm still having like weakness, shortness of breath. Watching what I'm eating now. I'm not gonna be stressed out. I'm letting some things go. If it's gonna stress me out, I'm not gonna worry. I can't worry about it. I wanna live. I wanna raise my own children. Brandon will be fine. We have raised Brandon so solid. And he showed me on these last few years that he is built for it too. I raised Brandon right. We raised him right. So he'll be okay. And I tell him, you're responsible for these girls. I said, they're not your kids, but you own them to be their dad. You 17 years older than them, than Jamie Lynn. I said, you own enough to be their dad. I said, I'm gonna live to be an old woman in my right mind doing for myself and lacking for nothing. And that's what I pray every morning during our family prayer. I'm gonna be here a long time. A long time. But that's gonna be part three. I get into the details of that. Um, but I just felt and talking to Mama T, I love Mama T so much. Mama T, I she has so much wisdom and insight, and she just talked to me and prayed for me, and she encouraged me. She said, "Baby," she said, "tell your story." She said, "People want to hear real stuff." She said, "People want to hear real stuff." She said, "Get in your quiet spot in your house and just talk and tell your story." That's why I didn't write nothing down. I want to be as real as I could. I didn't just, y'all see, I didn't dress up. I didn't put on, I got on a t-shirt and a cap. I don't even wear caps. I've been sitting around the house and my hair so fluffy, my nails ain't done. This is me, y'all. This me today. This is me recovering. So this what y'all got today. I could have came dressed up and had my nails done. I didn't feel like it, and I just wanted to be raw and real. I just want to be raw and real. And so this what y'all got. This what y'all got. So Mama T said, getting you a quiet corner of the house. I say no corner quiet in my house. I got toys, everything. Jamie Lynn thinks she running stuff now. Oh, that's a good idea, Coco. I see you, Miss Book. Miss Book, that's my sister Monique. She just left here. She kept the kids for me while she was here so I could get some rest. And she came to check on my brother. You need to come back. That's what you need to do, Miss Book. But I said, well, I'll go to the building and talk. That's what I do. I go to the building and talk. So that's where I am now. Brandon outside in the car, and he said, "I'm waiting outside, so if you can say what you want to say." I said, "Thank you." My husband's at home. He's been good. He making sure we eat and keeping the kids from bothering me so much. But then he can't do that because them girls want their mama. He's doing the best he can do. Um, and the yesterday was Friday. My husband brought me an envelope out of the mailbox, and it was a card from work. They sent me a card. My residents had signed it. The nurses had signed it. And I'm like, oh my God. They are really thinking about me. They are really thinking about me. And that just, I mean, it was full of signatures from my residents with their little scribble, scrabble handwriting. I'm like, that's okay. Now, let me tell y'all something. These jobs don't care nothing about y'all. Me, some people. I just say it like that. If you die, they gonna post your job. You got some people now thinking I ain't coming back and trying to get my spot. I'm just being real, y'all. So I had somebody. I did go and see my brother. I think that was Monday or Tuesday, and it took a whole lot out of me. My mom said, "You don't overdid." I said, "I'm gonna go home and lay down." But I wanted to go see him, and I had somebody from work calling me, and texting me, calling me it's emergency. So I text. text back. I said, is it work related or no? Yes and no. I didn't respond to. I'm on leave. I just had a heart attack, and my brother here. I'm seeing him. He in intensive care in cardiac. I mean, yeah, cardiac intensive care. I'm like, work ain't on my mind. That's part of my stress. That's part of my stress. But I love my job, but it is stressful, and I think it's stressful because it demands a lot of my time. And then when I get home, I still have businesses to run. And y'all know I talk about the businesses all the time. Still have those to run. Still have to be a mom and wife first and second, whichever one y'all to put first and second. But anyway, it was a lot, and my body gave out. My body tapped out on me. My body said, "If you don't, that's okay. You ain't got to sit down. I'm gonna sit you down." And that's exactly what happened. And I'm listening. I am listening to my body. I hate for it to have come, to this, but I'm listening. And so when I try not to get upset now when stuff happens, I'm like, okay, it is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. I'm not gonna let nothing stress me out, and nobody, or nothing. I'm getting rid of some people, places, and things to make my life better to be here for my kids. Do y'all hear me? And if whoever's listening to this, catching the replay, whoever this is for, take it from me. I don't wish this on nobody having restraints on what you can and can't do because you're afraid if you do too much you're gonna die. That's the fear I'm having. I'm like, Lord, I don't want to die. I want to. That's all I could think about when the doctors tell me you had a heart attack. My girls. I'm like, my girls. My girls. God trying to get my attention. Y'all know that song, God's trying to tell you something. That ain't just a song, that's for real. That's for real. 2023, I had emergency C-section. Didn't even know I was pregnant to my second trimester. They took the baby almost 3 months early. 2024, we had a son killed. Somebody took his life. He wasn't no street child. He wasn't. 20 this year, a few weeks ago, I had a heart attack. God, if that ain't, I had to be stupid to know God ain't trying to tell me something. I hear you, God. And I don't talk to God. I hear you. You got my full attention. My full attention. I gotta straighten up and fly right and get myself right with Him. I do, and I ain't ashamed to say I gotta get my life right. I gotta make some lifestyle changes. I do. I do, but that's all I stopped by to say. I hope I didn't forget anything. I have so many pictures that I can show y'all from that time. And Brandon was taking pictures. I didn't know he was taking pictures at that time, but he sent me pictures. But Trinity is doing fine. She is so active, y'all. That little girl climb on that girl. Liz, you can't take your eye off of Trinity. She's almost 19 months. You cannot, and she's super smart. You cannot take your eyes off of them. She climbed on top of the table the other day. You can't take your eyes off of them. She climbed in the bathroom, climb up on the sink, turning on the water. She do have temper tantrums though. She throw chairs and everything, y'all. Y'all pray for y'all little niece, okay? But I'm getting some rest as much as I can. Um, I'm taking care of my body. I'm listening to my body now. I think I'm gonna get more into YouTube because I kind of miss. I do miss, but I didn't have the time to squeeze it in. But since I'm home now, I have some videos that I can do while I'm at home. I do. I have some videos. Now I was thinking about. I'm not gonna be doing those mukbangs unless they're cardiac meals. But I have some things in mind that I want to do while I'm at home and do have some time. You know, um, I'm just gonna do stuff that and my crafts and stuff that's therapy for me. You know, so I'm just gonna do that and take it day by day. enjoy my family because I see, I mean, our family is so important. If it was not for my family, y'all, the being supportive, oh my God, I just don't know. Especially with my children. My family's so supportive. And I wouldn't trade that for nothing. Nothing. My sister was talking about taking my girls back home with her. I said, you know good. You're not gonna take my children back with you. But she was willing to do it. But I be calling her every 5 minutes. But thank y'all for listening. If you will and can, I'm not gonna even ask you to share, but if you will, can you share this video out? Because like I said, a lot of information that I got when I was going through these things, I got a lot of my information from YouTube videos from real people. I did. I learned a whole lot. So I want to thank everybody that tuned in. I know we got some people in the bushes. I don't care who it is. Thank you for tuning in. Maybe it's somebody that my story can help. Part two, my life journey series part two. I think I'm gonna call it. Well, our son was killed by gun violence, and I don't know what I'm gonna call it. I got to dress the name up because I want YouTube to block. They be hating, but that's what part two is going to be about, and how gun violence affects the family, how it destroys family, and people don't even realize it. My marriage was almost destroyed behind it. I'm being honest. It, some things, I mean, that's part two. So, thank y'all for listening. And part three is going to be about my heart attack on May 21st, a few weeks ago. So thank y'all for listening. I love y'all. Listen to your body. Love your family. Don't take life for granted because you never know. You could be here today and on your back tomorrow. I'm telling y'all, this is real talk. Don't, treat people right. Have a relationship with God, a real relationship with God. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Mama T, for your inspiration to do this live. I love you so much. Hey, Brandon. Brandon out in the car. So you been listening, Brandon? I love you, baby. I'm coming out. Thank y'all for listening. Have a good night, y'all. And see y'all next time, okay? Peace.